So open that page, I'll search for my fix, find what I need in the deep dark abyss.
Welcome to the AI Skeptics podcast. Good to see you.
We're
How's it
back.
going?
It's great to see you.
Yeah. Oh my God. I have done some nerd research today and I wanted to just dig in. I have been saying, just with words, you know what I mean? Like no actual backing it up. Just with words, I've been saying like young people are in a recession. And I decided to like look into what that means or if it means anything. And so are you prepared for all these nerdy things?
Yes, I can't wait.
Okay, great. So first of all, a recession is something that like you don't know you're in until it's been 6 months, which it kind of reminds me of menopause. Like, you know, you're not like officially in menopause until it's been a year since you last had your period. It's exactly the same thing.
It's that kind of definition, right? It's like 2 down quarters or something like that.
Well, it's not just that though. And like, so I looked it up. So first of all, it has to be for 6 months, right? It's backwards looking. So you know later. So you could always, what's great about that is you could always be like, oh my God, we're in a recession. Because nobody actually will know for a few months, you know? But what it actually means is a pretty complicated list of things. And it's like a combination of slowed down growth, like GDP growth, and like the unemployment rate goes up and jobs are not as plentiful. It's a combination of factors. And the thing that really sticks with me in terms of like, can we talk about kids being or young people being in a recession is like, well, GDP growth is something that happens to everyone, not just to young people. Unless, I mean, theoretically, you could sort of try to separate if you're a real nerd, but I'm not that far, like not that of a much of an economist, that you could try to separate like the part of the economy that young people work in versus older people and try to say like it's GDP growth for them, but not for these kids, you know? But anyway, so I'm going to take back that it's like a technical fact that kids could be in a recession when the rest of the people aren't because of that. But I will just say metaphorically, it's actually already a well-known fact. I mean, it's like a well-known trope, I should say, about recessions, that young people are typically in a recession within a recession. In the sense, in the following sense, like when people fire people, they fire young people. Why? Because like it's like they're the most junior, you know, and typically that's how workplaces work, like first in, first out type stuff. When jobs get cut back on, it's like the jobs that young people want and need. So it's like and if you look at the unemployment rates, which I have been to do this, and you look at the unemployment rate in general and the unemployment rate for young people, and I'll talk about young people in a couple of ways. Like there's a category of like 18 to 24-year-olds. There's a category of like 22 to 27-year-olds. It depends on how you look at it. But you'll see that like in every recession, the unemployment rate like shoots straight up for that group.
They're like the leading indicator. Do they get unemployed first? Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, it seems to happen to them first and they're already higher unemployment in the first place, but they like, you know, they skyrocket in a kind of like leading indicator kind of way, and they start higher and they get much higher. So they're kind of bearing the brunt of every recession. And by the way, if you look at that unemployment rate curve right now, you'll see that it's skyrocketing. So
can I ask one other thing about this unemployment for young people? Because you mentioned like, oh, they're the first to go when the layoffs come. It's like, you know, they're the lowest entry level positions are first to go. I've also been seeing in the AI related news where it's like they're just not even hiring for those entry level positions because they could be automated. So is that showing up in these numbers too?
Well, I'm going to get to that. I wanted to like nerd out a little bit before getting to that, like about unemployment definitions. Okay. So recession is a technical thing. It happened 6 months after it actually started. Unemployment, though, you have to understand is not like, and especially when you're thinking about 16 to 24-year-olds, you're like, wait, how many 16-year-olds are unemployed, right? What does exactly that mean? It means, like, first of all, if you're a full-time student, like you're a college student, you're not unemployed.
Right. You're not in the labor force. I remember that from
like class. You have to be actively looking for a job to even count in this setting. Right. So the fact that we're talking about a small slice of people, when we're talking about 16 to 24-year-olds that are even looking for a job, because they're not students, and they can't find one. And so it's like, it's a harsher statistic than you think, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's what okay. So then I looked at, as I said, this unemployment rate for youngish people is going up quickly right now. And that's a bad sign for the recession, as I mentioned, because that's what you see when you see a recession. But I looked at a historical graph of unemployment rates for young people, and it's actually not very high historically. It's at 10.6% right now, which is high. It's much higher than what it is in general public, but it's not like historically very high. It was much higher, except for example, after the Great Recession. And I don't have the numbers on that, but it was just like, if you look at the historical data, you're like, oh, 10.6% is not that historically high.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to look a little deeper. And in particular, I was thinking about like, well, why does Kathy think that it's a recession for young people? And I think it's because, and I'm getting back to what you were saying about AI, it's like for college graduates, and maybe it's because my kids are college graduates and I'm thinking about people, them and their friends, that they're, the college graduates, and if you look at the historical data, you'll see something really interesting. Recent college graduates, and now we're thinking about 22 to 27-year-olds, by the way, their unemployment rate is getting pretty high. And by the way,
high.
And usually the unemployment rate for that group of people, recent college graduates, which is their own thing, usually their unemployment rate is lower than the general population. And this is what has flipped just now. What's flipped is that they suddenly bounced above the general population of unemployment. So they historically like, oh, good, I got my college degree, I'm ready to go. I'm ready for these entry-level positions. And that's not happening at nearly the normal rate.
Interesting. I have another question.
Yeah.
Is someone counted as employed if they have some gigs or some freelance work?
Well, that's the other thing I was thinking about, right? Because, and thank you, Jake, that's exactly my next point, which is that like, if you look at going back to the historical view, you're like, oh, historically 10% wasn't that bad. But historically, the jobs you'd actually get were probably better. I'm just going to venture to guess. I'm not saying that there's always been like bad jobs, right? There's always been like, working at McDonald's. But even bad jobs, I feel like were better than the gig economy jobs that we now have. And so like the question of like, who counts as unemployed? Like or better said, what counts as a job?
Yeah. Does it have to be full time? I literally don't know. I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be full time. So I think like I drive for Uber counts.
Okay.
Pretty much anybody could get that job. If not anybody, you have to have a car, you have to have a license. You have to pass.
If a lot of people are driving Uber, for just enough hours to make ends meet, kind of thing, and they're coming through as employed, then the unemployment rate is artificially low because like there are a lot of people are being counted as employed, but they're crappily employed.
Exactly my point. So like it's the question of like, yes, you might be quote unquote employed, but you don't have a quality job, a high quality job. You don't have the job that you wanted to get when you were in college and you thought you would get because that's what you were told. And that goes back to my sort of like long-term feeling that we have betrayed the young people of today. Yeah. And I will just say another couple things and then I'll stop talking about this, although it is a kind of obsession for me.
Yeah. I don't think you have to stop.
So another thing I looked into is like ways of measuring like the, prospects for a college grad. And one of them is like how many jobs that are listed as open require a college degree. And the answer is less and less. Okay. Fewer and fewer of those jobs as a proportion of all open jobs, open positions. And there are fewer of them. And some of them are phantom, as we know. We talk about the AI aspect of like fake job openings and stuff. But fewer of them require a college degree. And on the one hand, you might be thinking, oh, that's great for people that aren't getting college degrees. Or you could even think, hey, maybe we don't need to get college degrees anymore. Let's not waste all that money and get into all that student debt. But then there's another article I found that said, in spite of the fact that they're not listed as needing college degrees, the people that get the jobs have college degrees.
Mm.
And so that's like super sad. And it makes me realize, like, okay, so the real signal of a job posting that says that doesn't require a college degree, the real signal there is like, we're not going to pay well. That's my theory.
Oh, interesting.
Like, we're going to require a college degree on the down low, but we're not going to pay well because look, we don't need a college degree. You know what I mean?
Well, and just you're bringing up the the job requirements and job openings thing makes me think of the changes to the hiring process, like AI-driven hiring, as a change in this system. It's not necessarily coming through in the unemployment numbers, but I would venture a guess that it contributes to the recession vibe that young people might feel, that like the very prospect of getting a job is an AI-mediated prospect, like across the board now. Almost every major company is using that. So along with those AI tools comes a flood, automated applications generally, right? The number of applications for any open job is just astronomical now. And I think the sense that candidates have of like, you're just taking a shot in the dark, and I've read about, all the gamesmanship that candidates are starting to do to try and game the AI hiring algorithms, putting hidden text on their resumes to prompt ChatGPT to sort them high, all kinds of, tricks, none of which are really about being qualified for the job. So I would think that when hiring itself becomes an arbitrary process, like a young person can't help but feel discouraged.
I mean, and you just put your finger on it, Jake. And by the way, I think it would be great to have an episode where we just talk about the application process.
I love that.
In depth. But I think you put your finger on it when you said like these games do not have much to do with like qualification for the job. Because like my point is that these kids are overqualified for these jobs. They're getting jobs for which they are overqualified. And that is the experience I'm seeing among, my kids' friends. And I'm not saying they're unhappy kids, like they're going to be fine and like they're going to make do, but they're making do. To be clear, they're not getting the jobs that they expected to get with the educations that they've received. They're overqualified. They're like, frankly, desperate to get any kind of, bump in their chances of a real interview with a real person because of all that AI. Those layers of AI that you and I know about very intimately because we actually work on those things and we audit algorithms that hire people for our daily lives. So yeah, and I just one last thing about young people and their job prospects and whether they're in a recession. We only just talked about this one notion of having like a high unemployment rate right now, but the other, of course, I don't think we can ever forget the following other things that are not historically true but are true now. Besides the fact that they're gig workers and that they're getting jobs that they're too super overqualified for, they also don't think they're ever gonna be able to afford a house, right? Their healthcare is getting more expensive. Like, there's all sorts of other, the cost of childcare is skyrocketing. The cost of having kids is crazy. Like, there's all sorts of ways that young people have been screwed economically, and sort of in not just a small way and not just a short-term way, but I think a sort of very, very visceral and long-term way where their expectations are just plain lower and realistically lower than ours were or mine were when I finished college. And so I think I'm going back to my original thing, which is like, actually, I think the young people, the 20-somethings, they're in a depression. I'm going to say it. They're in a depression. I don't even know what the technical definition of a depression is, so I'll have to go back and make sure that they make sense. But even if it's not technically true, I think I've looked enough into the numbers to be like, yeah, it's metaphorically definitely true.
Well, thank you, first of all, for laying this out. I want to add one more thing onto the pile of what might contribute to at least a feeling of depression or a depressive vibe. And it's also in the world of jobs. It's not about getting a job, but it's about what is the path forward and like the path to advancing in a job. And in particular, mentorship and learning, and like the way that the, either the removal of or the automation of entry level work, those job titles and the very tasks that, entry level people are brought in to do, the more that stuff is outsourced, not outsourced, rather given over to AI, it's like that is the on the job training approach that we've all done for hundreds of years at least. And that I feel that that's being sort of taken apart, like in real time, right in front of our eyes. So as an entry level person now, it's like, how are you supposed to cut your teeth? I'll talk about, my wife works in advertising. In that world, entry level people write, entry level copywriters write tons and tons of headlines for ads, like what's on a billboard or what's going to be the script for a video or video ad. And basically, ChatGPT is taking that job one way or another. Similar for entry level, art directors and graphic designers. So, what's the training program? What is the path up from entry level to middle to senior in those industries when automation is, when the AI specifically is such a big part of it? Yeah,
and it's like, going back to the original question of are we in an actual recession yet? When do we declare the actual recession for the whole economy? And I feel like what you're describing is also partly just the uncertainty that, mature corporations are under. They don't know whether the recession is about to be called. And if it is, then they don't want to be hiring all those people. So it's like, they probably are like, okay, we're risking something here by shutting off the pipeline for young people. I mean, they know that, right? They know that, like, on the one hand, we want to be able to automate this because it's cheaper. On the other hand, if we automate this and we don't have a pipeline, then we don't have anybody who knows what they're doing in 5 or 10 years when we actually need senior people.
Yeah, I'm glad that you think they're already thinking that. I'm not sure if I believe they're already thinking it, but I'm glad you do. Like, I'd like to proceed with that assumption.
And by the way, Jake, I hesitate to say this, but like, there are going to be some professions that really are completely hollowed out by AI. And like, I don't know enough about advertising to say whether that's one of them, but I know enough about lawyering, like, the legal world. And I know they're also not hiring new people, like young, like entry positions, but they definitely need people like lawyers need to exist, right? For sure. I mean, we're screwing over this generation of of newly like minted law students, but like, what's going to happen if we don't ever have, jobs for young lawyers anymore? Like, it's not a good, like, that's another episode we could do.
Exactly. And I'm just thinking as you're talking, in the notion of a leading indicator, like that probably takes quite a long time to play out, like to see that gap really emerge and to see the gap have an impact on, there's not enough lawyers out there. We can't figure out the answers to legal questions without.
I mean, what would that look like? I'm just going to throw one word in for the future episode of that, because we really should have a lawyer on for that. But like, what that would look like is, and we had a couple episodes we talked about antitrust law and how it doesn't work for the current challenges of big tech, but it would just look like no one ever coming up with new theories. We don't need lawyers necessarily. Like, imagining that AI works better than it does, which it doesn't right now, but like imagining that it works really well and could just consistently apply existing case law, that would also be a failure for our future, right? Because we don't just need existing law. We need it to mature and change. And that requires like legal thinkers and strategists. And like, if we never have new lawyers, that's eventually, we're just going to have an automated law system. That's no good, right? Okay. Anyway, definitely to come.
Love it. Thank you, Kath. Thanks for that topic.
Okay. Yeah. Like, and I think you have a terrible idea that you want to complain about, which I love. This is my favorite thing to do.
I've added to it since I told you that's terrible, and I've got another one or two. So I'm going to complain about some AI ads that I've seen recently. The first one was for an AI enabled toy for kids. It's a little stuffed animal. It has two eyes. It's shaped like a little blob.
Is that
And
like an elf on the shelf notion? Like,
yeah, or a blob on the knob, or I don't know. It's
ooh,
like a little.
That sounds dirty.
Yeah, it's not that.
That sounds really dirty. What are you talking about right now? That's a
Definitely
sex
toy
toy.
for kids. It's awful, but it's awful in a totally different way than what you're now thinking.
Wait, please
look.
explain it. And by the way, I want to apologize for not drinking wine. It's like 10 in the morning. It's like an unusual morning recording of the podcast, but normally I would be drinking. So I'm taking a sip of my coffee as if I'm about to hear a really good story, like I'm drinking wine. But go ahead.
We'll let it pass this time. The stuffed animal is cute, and it has these two little eyes. And the point is that it's AI enabled, and it talks to the kid. It's designed for kids from toddler to young kid. And on this little commercial, which I saw, my wife showed me on Instagram, like they're showing it saying, I'll tell you about your aunt. You know, it's telling a kid about the kid's family. And I guess it must have been told about who's in the family. I didn't even click through to see if it's, is it plugged into your social graph, your Facebook account to like find out who you know, or is it actually explicitly told by the parents that like, oh, this is the aunts and uncles. But the point is that the ad evokes.
It's already super creepy. It's like, oh, we just use, what are you talking about? We just use the NSA files on you. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, simple. Yeah, just dial that up. The experience they show is the kid interacting with its fluffy AI toy and learning about its aunts and uncles and what they like and where they're from. And it just made me so sad. Like the parents are, I don't know, over there on their phones or something. And here's the kid. And, you know, of course, what I worry about based on our work is the nightmare scenario where the AI says something awful to the kid, or, you know, where they go into sort of red teaming territory.
Or
but then later
by some like groomer.
Exactly. Someone's listening in, or, you know, someone's grooming a kid through, you know, this toy. So I think about these terrible scenarios, but I still have room to think about the blasé, but also terrible scenario where it's just like, that's how we learn about our family, through a plush AI enabled toy. And
you'll never actually have the sweet potato pie of Aunt Barb, but you will hear about her, you know, college experience, because this blob on a knob actually was with her at college. Yeah. It's so gross.
It's gross.
Different blob, different knob, but okay. Wait, I have yet a third disgusting thing to talk about related to this notion, though.
Bring it.
Okay, so, I know your kids are little, but they're not too little to get bored. And especially your older kid. I used to delight in torturing my 3 boys when they were little, and they'd say, Mom, I'm bored. I'd be like, good. I want you to be bored. Yeah. I want you to be bored.
You're ahead of the curve. That's coming back right now as parental, you know, guidance, like make your kids be bored.
Yeah. And my mom said the same thing to me, and I hated her for it. But just to be clear, like, I'm just like, you get bored, you figure stuff out, you like create a mental playground in your own head. That's a lifelong, you know, resource for you. Like, you know, get used to it. And in fact, I think I've told you many times, Jake, that my goal is to be bored, because I haven't managed to be bored in the like, basically since my childhood. And it being a goal sounds strange, but it's like, because like my mind is always swimming. You know, I actually wanted to calm the fuck down so that I can maybe even approach boredom, but it hasn't happened. But I'm actually, you know, like boredom is underrated I guess what I'm saying. And like, so my like and it's a long-term issue, or at least it's a medium-term issue. It's not like the immediate issue of like, what if these toys are hacked and weird people start talking to my kid, when I'm not around, or I'm on my iPad in the next room. Like, my thing is like, these kids will not develop. I I hesitate to say this, but they won't develop consciousness.
Yeah, let's go right there. I think
they won't develop consciousness, because consciousness is like an inner voice being like, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. Let me think. Like, well, do I want to go to Davey's house? No, last time we went to his house, like, he wouldn't share his marble set, whatever. Like, it's just like you're thinking to yourself, you're like, oh, am I the kind of person that would steal from my friends? No, I'm not that kind of person. Like, you're thinking it through, whatever it is.
It's a private discussion. It's a discussion among yourself, and it doesn't have outside inputs. And that's what I think is changing. It's like just sitting, and it, like you characterized it as boredom, or you were like, I strive to be bored, or I aspire to be bored, but I'm not, because you're thinking among yourself. It's not like you're always getting a new stream of input in the form of some content, and that is what's going away.
It's funny,
I like to call it consciousness.
Yeah, it's resilience too. It's resilience, but like, and we're gonna have our friend Nicole on pretty soon, and she not only is an expert on Braverman. This
we
guy.
Might have to have her twice, honestly.
Yeah, I think we might have to have her twice, but we're going to talk to her about the book written by Braverman, which is so good, but which we're just going to tease right now. It's an amazing book, maybe my favorite right now. And the other thing we want to talk to her about is like, education, like in the age of AI, because she was teaching like freshman seminar at UMass Boston a couple years ago. And, like she was saying that like the kids there don't know what they don't know. They use AI to write essays. They don't know that the argument, they can't even pronounce some of the words. That's a dead giveaway that they clearly didn't write it. But it's like worse than that because they didn't understand it. But it's even worse than that because they don't even understand what it means to critique it, And
that brings me to my last complaint of the day, another AI ad that I saw. I don't mean to interrupt. Do you have more to say on that? I mean,
I do, but like, let's wait for Nicole. Yeah, go ahead. I love the complaints though. Like, that's what I'm here for.
I saw one more ad while I was riding in an Uber, and naturally I had a screen right in front of my face serving me many ads throughout the ride. And all the ads were for Google Gemini Pro for students. So it was an ad campaign geared towards high school students. Is like, that's who it looked like to me in these commercials. And they were showing these different use cases of how Gemini Pro can help with school. And one of the little snippets was a kid walking around. He's got earbuds in, and there's like little titles on the bottom of the thing, on the bottom of the screen. And it's saying like AI, Gemini turns a long reading into a quick conversation. And then there's showing you what it's saying in this kid's headphones. And it's like reading your biology notes. And it says a symbiotic relationship is kind of like two roommates in an apartment, ... So it's showing you how AI is going to distill a whole hour's lecture on biology and symbiosis into like a relatable metaphor for a high schooler to understand. It's two roommates. We've seen this kind of thing, right? Where like it can turn anything into a podcast, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Here's what it made me think. We have now got to the point where people can identify AI writing. They're like, oh, that was written by AI. The M dashes, the LinkedIn tone, So it's known that it's a style of writing and it's distinct. That's the next step is a style. It's AI thinking. It's going to be like, oh, that's AI style thinking. The way that was described, the metaphor used to understand that concept, that's very AI-ish. And it's just so monolith and so boring and so sad to think everything, concepts in biology and math, in, just everything you learn, like could be made boring and all the same cookie cutter thanks to AI.
And dumbed down. I mean, like, right? Like that's the most characteristic of it. It is like it's just absolutely simplified, dumbed down. There's no nuance. And the idea these companies are trying to deliver to us is that we don't need to quote unquote waste our time reading the nuanced version of a thing like a biological process. We can just get the 2-minute metaphor about living with our roommates or whatever it is. And that's good enough. And by the way, what should we be spending our time doing instead of reading the biological textbook? We should be scrolling social media or talking to chatbots, right? So it is absolutely. And I just want to say, okay, last thing I'll say, okay, and this has been a really great conversation today. When I thought about that childhood lack, let's not let the kids get bored. Let's have them talk to these pets, these AI pets all the time, and they'll never ever have to get bored, which is to say their consciousness will never be developed. Like we started out this conversation, which is really longer than the podcast. It's been years. We've been talking about this sort of outrage that we've felt that these AI companies are claiming consciousness of the AI. But what they really meant, I think, and more realistically, isn't that the computers are getting more conscious. It's that they're making humans less conscious. Like we are getting closer to the computer, but that's not because computers are getting more conscious. It's like we are literally going to lose consciousness.
They're bringing the bar down. Yeah, I love that, Kath. That makes me, if you go back to 2003 or something, it was like, we're all going to be connected thanks to Facebook. Well, now we all are. This is what it looks like. They've taken the word of
it's
connect
not good.
And changed.
Anytime they say something really great's going to happen, you're going to be like, how does another way of making that happen where it's really bad,
Yeah. Yep.
Anyways, great to see you. See you next time and see everybody else next time. And please, one of the things we want to do eventually is answer questions. So maybe we should set up a way of receiving.
Yeah, an email address.
An email address, getting user feed. We'll figure that out pretty soon.
Coming up next time, an email address for you to send your questions and thoughts.
Yes, because we'd love to answer questions. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kath.
Yeah.